Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the GameFace MPNFL Netball Show. Just Lou and I here tonight with Anna still away with her darling little school kids on school holidays.
Looking forward to having her back next week, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to have the extra person here to bounce around what's happening in netball around the grounds. So speaking of, what's going on that you've heard, Lou?
Well, we were very lucky. I didn't even mention it last week, but we had the Bombers Ladies' Day, or Bombers had their Ladies' Day on Saturday.
Are you part of the Bombers fraternity again?
Well, I was
just invited yourself along.
As we mentioned last week, it was our 10-year reunion from our premiership, but because of that, they put in a request to play times that they wanted to play 2 games on a Thursday night and 2 games on the Saturday, which our coaches didn't want to do. They either wanted all 4 on the Saturday or all 4 on the Thursday night, which unfortunately Bombers couldn't do. They're very short on players at the moment, so that would have probably not been able to help them out there on the Thursday night game. So we actually played 4 games Saturday morning starting from 8 o'clock. So just an hour earlier than normal for most clubs with their 17 starting at 9, but for us we start at 10, so it was 2 hours earlier.
So 7:30ish turn up to start getting your warm up.
7:15 I think the D grade girls got there and the sun hadn't come up yet. It was just coming up over, and it was actually really, really nice when I got there. I didn't get there until about 1:45, but even though the sun was just coming up, and it was just it was nice to get it over and done with, but very confusing. I kept looking over that doesn't look like twos. And what's going on? Who's that playing in there?
Under-19s out there having
the under-19s, and then you had to we were looking why isn't anyone's scores up yet? They haven't played yet.
The under-19s would be going, what's the whistle going over on the courts? They're not used to hearing that.
No, not at all. So
it would have been nice and peaceful at that time of the day.
Yeah, it was. To the first 2 games, it was really nice, and the sun made for that. Just the sun was annoying, but it wasn't. One, it's more favoured to one side of the court pending on the time of your game, but it sort of just was annoying for the whole. So you really had to combat that, which some of the girls weren't used to, and they're just throwing the ball. I'm like, they can't see you. They actually can't see it.
It was very cold last week.
It was very cold.
I'd like to know what the temperature was getting there at 7:15. It would have been single digits for sure.
Definitely was single digits. I'm just trying to think back to how many layers I had on, and I think I just had the long sleeve, my jumper and my jacket, and I kept that on. It was just that chill.
Yeah, because I know that I was down at Rye by about 7:15. It was a much quicker drive than I anticipated, so I was almost the first.
7:15.
I mean 8:15. Sorry.
Whoa.
quarter past 8. Not that early. And yeah, it was really
frosty,
really cold. Yeah,
they had a little bit of that wind chill when the wind was there, but the sun was also out, so that made it nice.
So it was about 5 or 6 degrees, I think, when I got there, and it didn't get anything higher than maybe 10 or 11 for the entire day. Chill factor, particularly down at Rye, it's nice and fresh down there. It was cold, so it would have been for your games.
It was cold, but it was really nice, and some of the girls, we could do this more often. I'm not too mad about it. I was like, I don't know. It was very hard.
It's all right if it's dry.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but again, if you're playing
cold, but it gets it over and done with, and then you can go and watch the footy, or like you girls did, went into the club rooms and
celebrated. So it was a great day. Bombers do a great Ladies' Day, but we had the pleasure of celebrating our 10-year reunion from our B grade premiership back in 2011 when I was a Bomber, which was a great day. Just to catch up with some of the girls. We weren't all able to be there, but I think there was a good crew. Yeah, I think there was 7 of us from the actual team there on the day, and a couple that had sent their apologies with a couple of pregnancies and things like that. And then one of the girls actually joined us later that night, which was good to see her as well. So, most of us sort of see each other every now and then.
As you cross paths.
Passing by at different netball games and things like that. But just to have a day just to catch up and reminisce. We had a couple of photos on there and what we used to do.
I saw that you girls got up on the bar like you did
we
back
did.
in the
We recreated a photo. A little funny thing from that photo, though. The one we actually recreated was from my going away in 2014 and not the actual one from the night.
Oh, okay.
So we recreated the wrong one.
And actually... was one person out of order as well? I think I saw.
Yeah.
Yes, and it kind of reminisced a little bit about the Beatles. When he doesn't have shoes on now. That means there's something. There's this something that's gone wrong. And I was like, oh, you girls, you're around the wrong way.
We were around the wrong way, but I think we'd had enough champagne by then to just get off there, get out of the boys.
10 years after doing it the first time around, you're probably lucky that you can get up and down off the bar nowadays.
I know, I did have to use the chair to get up. The boys like, what are you doing?
Yeah, whereas you would have just bounced up there 10 years ago. So it just brings me to talking about, earlier in the year we were talking about teams of the year. There was a lot of clubs that were doing that. But, this is a big thing now that maybe netballers haven't considered, because it's definitely something that the football fraternity do.
The football do, yeah. We've got about 5 or 6 bloody reunions banked up that keep getting cut.
The YCW footy club have won a few flags, haven't they?
So we've had to bump a few back, which will be good to hopefully get them over. But
I think I saw Langwarrin are doing a footy reunion as well coming up. So it's definitely very it's well known around the football clubs.
100%, and it just takes that one person to sort of liaise with the club from the team, or the captain, even like organising the boys ones. You've got that one person that's really, let's all get together and make sure we celebrate this day, because they don't come, they're few and far between. For a lot of people. I mean, you've probably on the flip end of that IC comment.
We'll have a few in a row.
But
I'll have my first 10 year while I'm still playing, maybe. No, I won't.
But yeah, it just takes that one person to sort of get in contact with the club and bring all the girls together, and make sure that they set aside a day. Coinciding with the ladies' day is nice, because unlike the footy, a footy team is.
Yes,
a lot more.
There's a few more.
There's a few more people in, so bringing it in with the ladies' day is just a nice opportunity to give everyone that chance to celebrate. So hopefully we see a few more clubs doing it. I think
pull the flags down off the walls at the
get
club,
the cups out,
get the cups out, dust them off, polish them up, because I'm sure
clean them.
Yeah, pretty tarnished after 10 years.
Yeah, it did need a little bit of a polish.
Unless they were one of the years where we didn't actually have the cups.
Yeah, the
tubes that had the holes through them, which you had to gaffer tape up. So on those reunions, just bring your roll of tape as well. So
I think that was a Swift the league learnt very quickly the next year not to give that back.
Yeah, I think they did two or 3 years of those.
I remember us getting one. We were like, "What is this?"
Yeah, and then so Sam from the league was happy to oblige, and I think they're no longer around, and she appreciates the fact that the girls want to drink from a cup just as much as the footy boys do. So that was really interesting. And so, would really be interested to hear the clubs. There were some real powerhouses back in the early days. Surely EDS has got some reunions coming up. I would be surprised whether Rosebud
they would have a reunion every year, so maybe they just
kind of combine it all together. Well, they would be able to combine A, B, C, and D kind of potentially all into. So they might be able to have it on a separate day. They've got enough players. The other thing that I wanted to talk about tonight was around lockdowns and quarantining, etc. So I know that there was some instances where players were quarantining leading into Saturday. We had 2 players from Summerville who were locked up at Queensland
in lockdown.
So weren't able to return to the game, which left. We were lucky it was a team where we had a good sized team, and we were able to cover that. But interesting. That I think did you?
Queensland was
else?
an interest. We didn't. We were lucky. Being school holidays, we didn't have anyone. I think that had left. Our president did. He got away for the weekend.
That's a school teacher, renowned for heading up to away on the school holidays.
But in terms of netball, we were lucky we didn't have anyone that got impacted by that. But it makes it
interesting,
particularly because
September school holidays.
Yeah, and even just this weekend gone, it wasn't until Friday I think that they did switch. So it would be banking on that, switching to orange to make sure that, and then even then you still had to make sure you returned a negative test to be able to get out and play. So,
and I think that there were some players, having a look through social media, there was a few players who were in isolation or isolating at home.
Yeah.
And the only way that they were going to be able to play that weekend was the red turning to orange, getting that negative test, and then being back on court. And I don't know my school holidays as well as some, but where that falls come finals time,
It's
September
generally
school
the
holidays,
first week.
Yeah, it might be about the same time.
Yeah.
Not letting anybody
the first
head
weekend.
into state where they can't return in time.
Well, that'll be interesting if there is lockdowns posing your restrictions up and down.
Mind you, if this is still around in September,
it's going to be here. Don't worry about that.
Go and get vaccinated, everybody, so we don't have to be in lockdown, all right?
But it'll be interesting, like even if they do, there's people that got trips, and if they can't come back, what a coach is going to do. Like netball doesn't pay your bills, so
that's
but then you've played all year for one game.
Yeah, so it's interesting. And so let us know if there was anybody who you had that was locked down or in isolation for the weekend games and
missed out
on playing. Yeah.
And then moving on, I know we did a reminder a couple of weeks ago in terms of umpire voting for the A and B grade, but we just wanted to have a chat about that tonight and see if there's any more commentary from other clubs as well, if captains are remembering to do this. I know, Christy, you have some frustrations with it being that you've got to agree on the same one as captains, and sometimes you just don't because you're seeing it from different point of views.
Absolutely. So it was a couple of weeks ago or 2 or 3 weeks ago where the captain of my opposition side and myself both, we both wanted to vote for the different umpire. And in the end, I just thought, fine, I gave them the who they thought was the better umpire. I voted for them, but it was funny because I actually forgot to vote, and we've got till Monday morning to submit that through. And I got an email through from Sam, so thank you, Sam, for the reminder. She said, "Christy, we need to get this vote through," and I sent it back to her and I said, it's probably one of the most frustrating things that I think on game day, I think reward and recognition, in
it's
sport,
super important,
and it's really important. In workplaces and on a sporting field, whatever it is, could not be more for reward and recognition of people doing a great job. I just think that there's got to be some other way to be doing this. I just don't think that the way that we've got it at the moment is right. And
I probably agree with you there in the terms of that you just have to pick one, and there's no room for there's no actual room for them to grow based on it's just this umpire was better on the day than this one, but there's no feedback there, or there's we're given a rating system from
what
players.
If they're both fantastic?
Yeah.
If they're both fantastic, and
they should be able to see that.
Opportunities where that's the case.
And the comment you should, so they umpires obviously vote on us each game of spectators, facilities,
yes,
player behaviour, coach behaviour, and it's a 3-2-1 and then a little comment box. And I'd love to see that because for both umpires, because it actually gives clubs that have got their own umpire base that opportunity to give feedback to them so that they can improve. And it shows when you do have those good umpires that they, players do really enjoy them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did have that at the start of the season. There was more ability to provide feedback, and it's changed in the latter part of the year with us now just all it is a field to say which is the best umpire.
Which can be really hard because, as you said, you might not agree.
Sometimes they can be two shockers, sometimes they can be two fantastic, and sometimes there's...
And it's just sort of potting them one against the other, whereas I think if you had that, or even a rating across the line, which you can, there's plenty of ways you could do it.
And just, again, feedback as well, from my perspective, because we have a huge pool of umpires at Summerville and we do rotate them through our games. So not one particular girl's ever umpiring A or B all the time. But if it was back to when there was the ability to provide that feedback, we never saw any of that feedback. So rather than wait to the end of the year, and I'm not even sure if that's going to happen, where we can be provided with feedback, how about give it to myself, who's the netball manager, to go, this is the feedback so we can pull those umpires aside. Or even if you are using,
I know that the league has the affiliation with Puna, but even if that has the ability to reach out to your umpires, the association, to help build them and help foster that growth and development, because that's what we want to see them growing and umpiring our games, because they can be awesome. They can
Yeah.
be really great and make them really good games.
So just interested to see, A and B captains provide your feedback. Are you coming together at the end of the game and deciding on one umpire? Are you just going solo and just submitting a best umpire per club, which I've heard that there are some clubs that are doing?
On rogue.
Yeah. So
Won't name names.
yeah. So just interested to know. So, provide us some feedback on that. And if there's anything else topical that you're wanting us to raise, whether it be pain points, anything that's frustrating you out there in the netball world, let us know and we'll bring it up in next week's show.
Awesome.
All right, let's talk about some milestones. What have we got?
So this week we have 2 for Division 1. We
Yes.
have for the 50 games this week is Amy Phillips, C grade captain from OICW. So Amy's having her 50 game this week. Good luck, and hopefully we get a win to celebrate. It's going to be hard, but we'll see.
Yes.
And hopefully I get this right. Alana McGuinness, 100 games for Pines. So that's, again, we're seeing a lot of 100 games come through at the moment. So congratulations, Alana, and we hope you get a win too.
Absolutely. Nothing from me in Division 2. I do recall that there was a few that I'd seen through club posts. So if that's the case, get your club to even share that onto the GameFace page so that we can see those and share them
up.
Yeah, share them out on the show, because it is always nice to get that recognition.
It is.
All right, let's talk about what the games were last week.
Yes, so we had a big week in the Div 1 this week just gone. So a huge shout out to Bonnie. I think they've come away with their first clean sweep for the season. So apologies, correct me if I'm wrong, but from my quick research,
I'm
pretty sure
that is the case. So
that is their first
Bon Beach.
4 from 4 and their A grade's first win for the season. So
Geez, it would have been pumping down at Bon Beach. Was that whose ground was it at?
it was at Dramana, so they played away. So they would have been thrilled to get those 4 points.
I hope they had a function on or something to go
so
back
then
to.
they could celebrate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a good win in the A grade by 10 goals. So well done to the Bonnie girls.
Would that have been I guess you said that they hadn't had a win.
They hadn't had a win,
goals
but
is a good win.
Yeah. Probably not too surprising that Dramana and Bon Beach probably sitting at the same with the way Dramana have been playing. You could have really gone either way, and that's, as we spoke about, 10 goals is a good win, but it could be a couple of minute laps in each quarter. So a big shout out to the Bonnie girls there. Hopefully they can roll on into it for a second win this week. Then also Mentalizer just getting done in C grade by 1 point to Red Hill. So they haven't won a game. They may have won one, this season. So have been not, they're quite a young team, and they can put some really good passages of play together. But for that just to go down by that one, and Red Hill just sitting in the top 6, so I think top 5. I'll have to double check my mathematics there or my ladder. But to come so close to a team, I know that my girls really picked that up and were interested to see that was just a 1 point. So a shout out to the Mentalizer girls. A win's not far away.
And also, with Red Hill, it's around the percentage as well. With those tight games. Yeah.
And then even back into their D grade, Mentalizer, Red Hill, a draw. So, again,
some tight games.
Some really tight games there. And, would you rather lose or would you rather draw? You still want the 2 points.
Yeah, I'll take the 2 points. Gets me that much closer.
It's just that one where you just
It's always.
But you do want those 2 points.
It's always the funniest when you come in at the end of the game to do your rah-rahs and it's like, 3 cheers for, and it's like everyone's like rah rah, because no one's really that happy about it. But
and then we saw a 44-goal turnaround in the Pines and Rosebud game, with Rosebud coming away with a convincing win this time. So Pines getting the job done earlier on in the season, and then Rosebud turning the tables in A grade. So looks to see that Pines may be struggling a little bit without their
the superstar,
magic player, which you would imagine. But hopefully, know they're just in the top 5 at the moment. They do need to pull a couple of wins together to make sure that they stay in that top 5.
It's important in this end of the towards the end of the season.
To be able to have a crack at those finals, because you would think that she may come back towards the end, depending on how that all pans out.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because she didn't she wasn't named, I don't think, for the game last weekend, but obviously, staying on as a training partner potentially, and in any case of any injury, etc.
Yeah,
and you did get a good win.
They did have a great win. You just wonder as well, there's probably some COVID protocols in place, even though she is a training partner.
She could be in that bubble.
And then Bombers nearly took it's quite of the reason, part of the reason that I have a little croaky voice. We were down every break and put the first probably 8 minutes of the final quarter was awesome from my girls. If they can do that for the 4 quarters, I'll be very happy.
Probably wouldn't be beaten if that was the case.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah. It was a great opening. End of the quarter. And
so what was the difference? What happened in that 8 minutes that wasn't happening for the rest of the game?
Oh, no. That's a big weekend.
Come on, Coach.
Don't know where my notebook is. It was really probably just being patient with our goalers and not forcing the ball in, not just passing it because we want to get that ball in, waiting for it to open up and really working the ball in and down the court rather than throwing some long bombs, and our accuracy under the ring, getting them in, getting the rebounds. So we were put it together in a bit of little different patches across the day, but Bombers came out firing in that first quarter, and we had to peg ourselves back, and I think we were down by 2 at 3/4 time, and then we were up by 5, and then it got close again and managed to come away with the win, which we were pretty happy about. But those girls will definitely not be far away come finals time. So they just need to
will you meet
potentially.
In the finals? What's the chance of the two of you making
they've just dropped down
top 5?
to both teams will make the top 5.
Okay.
So I think I'm pretty sure they're safe.
You might get a third go again.
Yeah, there's definitely potential for that third time, and I think the Bombers girls probably just need to. The 2 games we've chased them in the end, and they've got their heads down when we have got in front of them. It was good to see that they did come back at us on Saturday, but it's just probably trying to switch that on a little bit quicker when we do get to that lead and get in front rather than being down on themselves that's happened. But that comes with experience as well. So they are similarly quite a newish team.
And hence the reason why they're probably improving as the season goes on, as if they haven't had those connections.
100%. And it was actually interesting to see I did get asked to take the court on Saturday. But I don't
For YCW?
No, for Bombers.
No.
They so we did see a couple of big wins across there. So a couple of injuries have really decimated there. And I think a few C girls got up and played B grade as well, and similarly they had 7 for their A grade team. So hopefully they can get a few back towards the end of the season and play that season out.
Or if there's anybody out there that
once again head on down
that hasn't taken the court, maybe reach out to the Bombers fraternity and get yourself a game down there.
And there are no real other mentions. EDS having some big wins against Sorrento in the B, C and D, and their A grade Sorrento playing only going down by 9. So again, they've had some really close games in the last couple of weeks. So there's a win there, not too far around.
It was interesting during the week or last week's show. We spoke about relegation, and we got quite a little bit of feedback from Sammy, who obviously was on our show in previous years, who is an EDS girl and has been for a long time. So she threw out some comments, and we had some other people join in around their thoughts about it. So, yeah, it was good to see that kind of chatter. So
Cam O'Neill actually thinks he has the mathematics down to how it could work to relegate across all grades. It's like, that's too much effort for me. That everyone still plays at their home. I don't know if it's netball and football are separated, but for home games, everyone still plays that home game. But
Cam, send through your mathematical formulas and we will test them out.
I'll just stick to where we're at. It's easier.
Like I said, I'm very much a traditionalist, and I think
I like playing all together in the one.
I like being all in the same venue, but I also like the fact that there's just one up, one down. I don't think there needs to be anything fancy about it. Although that said, you said that you doubt that there would be anybody from Division 1 who would be for changing their perfect fixture. But as I put together all of the paperwork for tonight, I like the fact that we have the extra teams. So we come across, I think,
you come across that difference, and you don't have, you may not play someone twice.
But that I don't mind. I'd rather play extra teams. I like the fact that we have a bigger division. Whereas, I don't know. I like the variety, but I think it'd be nice. I think if if we had more clubs all together.
It was just on that. Thinking about the one thing, even with the relegation, is you could be like a team that finished 5th and get promoted, because if you win the grand final, you go up in Div 2. So you've got to win the grand final in Div 2 to go up. So you could finish 5th and have a great final series.
Correct.
Hasn't been done recently, but even at that.
But the tighter the Division 2 competition gets,
that's
absolutely.
Definitely a possibility. So
depending on how the games, where they're played and all of those things. So, stranger things have happened. So we just assume at the moment, I think Langwarren's still up on top of the ladder in the footy in Div 2, even though they had a loss last week or the week before. So we just assume that they will come, but that's not how obviously it works.
Whoever wins the grand final. And speaking of finals, we'll hopefully have some venues in the next couple of weeks. I know there's a lot of questions out there about them and where they're going to be played and who plays when on what weekend and things like that. So for any of you out there that are waiting on that, it will come through in the next couple of weeks and we'll let you know.
Absolutely. Be interesting to see which clubs have put their hands up. All right, let's talk about Division 2 games. So in the A grade, we had some really big margins, probably other than the Mornington versus Hastings game. Mornington just sneaking over Hastings 45-42. But other than that, some big wins. Chelsea over Devon, Summy over Rye, and Langwarren over Carringel. Probably nothing there that would surprise anybody. Reasonably tight game, Piersdale versus Tayab. Tayab still, so that was a really, 4th versus 5th game, and Tayab took the chocolates there, 42-30. So probably a bigger margin maybe than I'd expected. I did hear that Carly's back on the court there at Piersdale with her ankles strapped up. So that's really great to hear. And another shout out too is I saw during the week that Emily Bennett's back out on the court doing some midweek netball. So I wouldn't be surprised whether we would see her back on the Langwarren court in A grade in a more of a full-time capacity as well. So that's
just
great to hear.
Strengthening that team even more.
Absolutely, and just giving them some rotation options there in the goal circle, which would be great. And I know that and it was interesting as well. Sharpshooters, there's a few people who are starting to keep an eye out on the goaling stats around who is coming into the last few rounds, around who is sitting up there on the on the goaling stats. So in B grade, probably the closest one there was Langwarren 46 defeating Carringel 41. That was probably a closer game than I had thought. I thought Langwarren would probably run away with that, with a bigger margin, to be honest. So I don't know whether, maybe there was some Langwarren girls away or filling up, pulling up to A grade, I'm not sure. But whereas some big margins, Chelsea defeating Devon Meadows 69-23, and my girls 67 defeating Rye 29. Want to do a bit of a shout out, and I hope that she's okay. There was a poor Rye girl in the B grade that copped probably one of the hardest Falcons I think that I've ever seen on a netball court. My goodness. And she was, like I said straight out, I turned to my team, or my opponent actually that I was standing next to at the time, and I said, if that had been me, I would have been in tears without a doubt, and I would have been walking off the court. Like it was a pass from one of my girls, and it was, obviously we had anticipated it to reach another one of our teammates. This poor girl just turned at the wrong time, and she didn't know what was coming, and it's hit her square in the face, and she ended up having to come off the court, and she was quite dazed, and I believe there was a level of concussion that had come from it. So I hope that you are all well and that you've recovered and that you're going to be playing tomorrow, because that was, my
you don't want to laugh.
I don't want to laugh. And we didn't at the time, because it was more so.
We've been one of those.
It was every person that watched it at the same time was just like, oh my goodness, I hope that you're okay. So I do hope that you're okay and that you've recovered and that you're able to have a laugh about it now, because wowee. It was definitely a big one. Moving on, C grade again, Piersdale versus Tayab. So Tayab won that one in a close one, 39-37. Probably the biggest scores that came from the round in the C grade was 54 for Carringel defeating Langwarrin 47. So Carringel would be really happy with that result. Yep. And, Carringel are just outside the 5 in C grade by percentage. So to be able to get that win, they'll be looking to get a few more of those leading into the finals. And another close one in D grade, Piersdale versus Tayab again, but this time around it was Piersdale that were able to overcome Tayab 39-31, and some big scores, Warren beating Carringel 47-10 in that one, and Chelsea 51 to Devon Meadows 17, and Chelsea in that D grade still sitting there undefeated. So they're having a ripper season.
It's interesting those big gaps in that Langwarrin. You would think. You think
that it keeps flowing down,
then you have Carringel come over the top of Langwarrin, and then Langwarrin absolutely annihilate it.
Yeah.
So
it makes you wonder whether that. It's an in-house joke very much at Summerville, where there's girls that only want to play B grade and aren't willing to step up into A grade. And, I think that would be the same in some clubs. It's like, I've always played C grade. Potentially I might be good enough for B grade, but I just love C grade.
Yeah.
And that can then show in these type of results, where there's girls that are really good for a particular grade and potentially could be pushing up, but they go, no, I'm really comfortable where I am. And, and it's not. I can promise you, it's not the case. It's something everyone who's playing B grade has well and truly either.
But you even have you have those opportunities mentioned in some teams that are you want to see those players moving up, but then all the regulations we have in place, if you do play games up, and then then you get tied up there, but they're only playing up there because someone's injured.
Yeah.
And that team's
Which
not going to make the finals.
Quite a lot of. Yeah.
You've got all that to come into play. It would be nice to have a bit more flexibility, but for some reason clubs don't like it.
Our rules are very much black and white on that one. And I guess it depends on the makeup of the teams. If you've got a lot of veterans, you're unlikely to necessarily have those girls pushing up. They might be on
veterans.
Putting them up and saying, well, I fall in that category. Say I've done my time and I'm on the downward slide. Whereas, there's some young girls that will be coming through in those, B, C and D teams that will be on the incline, and they will be able to step up, and they're the ones that you hope aren't getting held back.
And they are getting pushed up.
That they are getting pushed up. And then last but not least, with our under 17, so again, some pretty big margins in most of the games on the weekend. So Piersdale, who are undefeated in the under 17s, beating Crib Point 51-25, really experienced Piersdale side, and I'd say that majority of those girls will be stepping up into seniors next year. Likewise with Langwarrin, and they're sitting second on the ladder, only beaten by Piersdale. They beat Carringel 55-13, and Chelsea beating Devon, and Summy beating Rye as well. So I guess probably some generally expected results across the games there. Nothing to stand out.
And just a shout out to our 17, I did have one circled. The Red Hill Mentalizer game was quite a close one, with Mentalizer coming across, I think it was Mentalizer, the winners by 8 goals in the end, which we've seen some really big margins across our 17. So to have a nice close game was good. I'm sure was good for both teams to be able to tackle that out.
And I think each year, as the 17s competition develops, I think because at the moment, I know my girls are babies. They're all generally around 14. Is 15 years old against the Piersdale and Langwarrin sides, which are obviously a more mature side.
Give you a couple of years and you'll be that team. So there's that balance.
There is that real difference between sides at the moment. And I guess as it plays out and people either stick with it, or you have that more variety in the sides, that competition is going to be stronger. All right, let's talk about the Swordfish game of the week last week, which was Crib Point versus Seaford in the D grade. So we love the opportunity with our Swordfish games of the week that we do cover off all of the grades, which is fantastic. Normally it's just the A grade girls that get all the accolades. So we sent our spy out to the Crib Point game, and they were winners of on the day, Crib Point 28 versus Seaford 21 in that D grade game, which was good because I think, well, not good necessarily, but
well, it was good for Cribby.
Yeah, it was good for Cribby. But interestingly, I think it was Seaford who was sitting just that one position higher going into the game, and so Crib Point would be really happy to take away that. And the best on court was Kylie Crowe. So congratulations, Kylie. You were named best on court, and you will get contacted by the Swordfish team, and we'll be able to go down to Mornington and enjoy a little night out. Yeah.
Rumours.
All right, rumours. I'll have a glass of wine as I can't speak.
Div 1. Dun, dun, dun. Which club has had 3 C grade players walk out on their club during the week? Well, I sure as hope it's not mine. So that'll be a surprise to me.
C grade coach Luma, unaware that she's had players walk out on her. That's a real shame because at this time of the year, firstly, there's not enough games now to qualify to get other players in.
We actually had that discussion last week because we may have someone unavailable for our grand final, but I think I've convinced her to the other way. She's like, should we just qualify someone else? I was like, week out.
Too late. You needed to have worked that out already. But yeah, and also then, like you said, we were talking about before, is, with the lower grade players going up, if they've played a couple already and then then they won't be able to fall back.
No, and you wonder, is C grade, so it's either a team that's doing well and isn't sort of agreeing with their coach, but you would hope if you're doing well, you almost, you probably don't agree with your coach the whole time, but you would think you would agree with them enough. But for 3 players to walk, and then if it is one of those teams that isn't winning as, not winning games potentially, but, depending on who that is, it could be a whole range of reasons, but you would hope that they've brought something up. It's quite late in the season to want to walk out. You've put a lot of effort into the season already. Could
have been a particular incident that's happened. But I don't know about YCW, and I don't know about...
Maybe it was EDS, and we'll have a good game on the weekend.
You'll soon find out.
Don't think so.
And I don't know about YCW, but C-grade coaches are likely to be volunteers.
100% C-grade coaches are volunteers.
There's
gosh, I spend more money.
You pay to be the coach? Yeah, that's almost how it works. So that's really hard too. We're talking about whether you've got, differences of opinion with your coaches. And
that's probably one thing girls need to remember a little bit more is that most coaches are volunteers, and they put a lot of time into your trainings, working, either just mentoring or having those chats to girls one-on-one.
Just turning up
it's
each
not
week
just
is
Saturday.
Hard work sometimes.
It's not just Saturdays. So it kind of is disappointing when you hear things like that, but
don't know the circumstances.
You don't know the circumstance. It's just the one line.
Yep,
so if you know any more, feed it to us and we can talk a little bit more.
All right, let's talk about Division 2. All right, Division 2. What V&L player took to the court on the weekend for a quick cashy? Hey.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Hey, weekends are for cashies, so go for it.
The tradies get the cashies, the netballers get the cashies. Hey, why not? If you are good enough to make some coin on a netball court, to you, I say.
You would hope you'd get on the court a little bit more often than just the one game. So then you're getting regular cashies, because I know...
Yeah, there's a bit of cashies going around, isn't there?
So I wonder why it was just the one game.
Don't know. Who knows? Maybe they... I don't know.
But is there a bit? I know we obviously know. We know there's a bit of cash out there, but it would be interesting to see, because I have this discussion a lot of how clubs can sustain that in certain areas, and what they are actually paying, and is it equal for 100%?
Yep.
So there's a lot of those. Do you do it? Do you want to do it? I know we don't, but it's something we're looking into. But we want to make sure we're rewarding. We want to reward the people that have been at our club
and the right thing, right behaviours, right culture.
Exactly. We don't want to pull people in and willy-nilly just because it's a bit harder. Like at football, you can put different money in. With netball, you've got 7.
But I was going to say also
it's so
that,
different.
there's a team of 20 odd blokes
you can
who
hide.
are playing footy. If you bring in 1 or 2 players or whatever, it doesn't overwhelm the rest of the side. Whereas it's not the same with with 7 on the court. It's very different mentality.
But if you
the other one too is that I think we're really privileged, I think, in the MPNFL that we have so many VNL players playing in our comp, and whether they're getting money or not, who cares? You
just want to see them playing. It's making our comp so much stronger. It's making our
competition stronger. But I do also appreciate the fact that there would be VNL players who would be going, you know what, we train once or twice a week, we have a game, it's a big commitment, depending on what they've got on their lives. If that player has decided that I'm just going to play this week, but, I'm too busy to make a full-time commitment.
I can play when I can and give me cash.
And I would get that, because VNL...
It's hard enough just committing to this. Sometimes, when you hear some of the VNL girls are doing, I was like, why are you playing our league without being rude in that sense?
Well, I question the other way around. I'm like, why are you playing VNL? just playing our competition. It's more profitable. Anyway, that's because I'm old and I don't do it anymore. Anyway, let's talk about tomorrow's games and, what's going on in Div 1.
A couple of games to call out. We'll start with Sorrento versus Mentalizer. So Sorrento, particularly in A grade, they have been, as we mentioned earlier, having some quite close games, not losing by big margins or anything like that, some really close games, and same with Mentalizer. So in A grade particularly, that's going to be a really good clash, and I'm really interested to see who comes out of there. Mentalizer, potentially. Okay, apparently I'm going for Mentalizer getting their second win for the year. Sorrento have already had 2 wins, so it would be nice to see Mentalizer get up there.
The scores.
But also across the rest of their grades, they'll be, it's that 7th, 8th or 8th, 9th position. So it'll be great to see there.
Just before you move on, Sorrento, are they still playing on that court that's up really high with the very short baseline?
Well, unless we didn't get to play them yet, but I imagine so. I know unless they've got a court around their football oval, or if they've extended that little bit.
Come on, Sorrento, open your purses and get those girls a nice court down beside down beside the footy ground.
And then Red Hill versus Bombers, more so in the lower grades. So C, very interested to see the outcome there. So Red Hill just in the top 5, and Bombers really needing to cement a win or 2 coming into this bottom end of the season after a couple of losses on the trot. So it'll be interesting to see that. And then we have a couple of very interesting games of Edie versus YC. So
I feel like there's a bit of a rivalry that's starting between the two of you.
There's a little... I think everyone likes to try and
take out Edie.
Edie. So, and they are all top 4 clashes. So, A grade we've got 1 versus 4 with YC, was the first time ever beating Edie the last time we met. So they'll be trying to take that.
I bet they are.
Edie sitting on top of the ladder, so they'll want to try and get that back, and I know our girls will want to try and show that they really mean business this year.
If YCW wins that game, will there be any repercussions in the ladder positions?
I'll have to check, but I think
they lose the top position?
I think YC go to the same points if we win, and so potentially Edie could drop to Rosebud if they win. So Rosebud are playing Bomb Beach, so that should get a win, so they could take that.
And the first week off of finals, all those things start playing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Edie and Rosebud are sitting on the same points, if not Edie are 1 game ahead, and YC to win this one will tie them with either second.
If they have the first week off in finals, you might be able to sneak to Queensland and back before having to worry about lockdown.
And then that might actually be another grade, but I'll have a look.
Okay.
There is potential it might change. And then in the B grade, YC are undefeated at the moment. A couple of tough games the last couple of weeks. So I know Edie are just around knocking on the door in second spot, and I believe the only game they lost was that
against you guys,
against us, so it'll be another cracking game. C grade 1 versus 3 with Edie beating us last time, and so we've dropped a couple, so it'll be good for us to try and get that one. And sitting undefeated there, the C grade EDS team, and again D grade 1 versus 3 again, and Edie sitting undefeated. So hopefully some cracking games, and hopefully not a clean sweep from Edie, but. maybe one for us.
Which
we'll
I
see.
think that we've seen in the past, but I think that gap is definitely, and like you said,
Definitely bridging,
You won a couple of the last time that you went around.
2 and 2, and we've got some, I think.
But having a look at your ladder position.
Yeah, there's 4 games with one each
that you've
team.
put there. I don't think it's just Edie that other clubs would be wanting to knock off. I think.
Well, I'm pretty sure people want to knock us off as well. But
YCW might be on their list too.
There we go. They will be some cracking games, and really looking forward to seeing. In C and D, they won quite convincingly, so it'll be good to see the difference in those games. And, B grade was a cracking game. I think it was a 1 or 2 goal difference, and it was those last 5 minutes. So, and A grade, they came it was a good start by our girls, and they came firing back. So, really excited for the weekend.
And the game's down at Jubilee Park this weekend.
It is.
Fantastic.
Yes.
All right, moving on to Div 2, we have Carringel versus Mornington, which, look, I think, in the A grade, for example, Mornington is still in touch with the top 5, just sitting out along with Summerville outside of that. So, they've got to win all of the rest of their games to be able to be in contention, and it's going to have a little bit around, whether there's going to be other losses in there as well. But what else have we got? Carringel. So, again, B grade, Mornington just sitting out of the top 5. Carringel a couple of games behind, but like we suggested before, they're the type of games that, do you want to try and influence somebody else's position in the 5, or whether you've kind of thrown in the towel and giving up on the season? I think Carringel could definitely have a crack at that game. We've got Devon versus Piersdale. So, in the A grade, I think Piersdale should be able to win that quite convincingly. Devon Meadows, unfortunately, haven't got a win across the board yet. But, in the D grade, for example, Piersdale 3rd on the ladder, and Devon just outside the 5. So, that will be a closer game. Seaford versus Langwarren. I'm really looking forward to seeing the results of this one in B grade. They're both currently sitting on 28 points, 4th and 5th. So that will bring, obviously, somebody up closer and somebody, on the verge of being able to potentially be knocked out by Mornington. So see how that one plays out. Crib Point versus Chelsea. Crib Point, unfortunately, just haven't had the season or the successful kind of year that they've had in the past. And I'm sure that they're
building, regrouping.
Whether they're rebuilding. I know that they've they've had a few girls. I think I think might be a couple of pregnancies that have happened down there. All of those good chestnuts that happen. And Chelsea are just having a flyer. So sitting 3rd in A grade, 3rd in B grade, top of the ladder in C grade, undefeated D grade, 3rd in under 17s. So they're having a ripper, and I think that they will, look to be getting a clean sweep, that one. What might play out is I haven't played Crib Point. We haven't played Crib Point yet, and their under 17s are sitting on 5th of the ladder. Just in by percentage, with Devon knocking on the door. So Crib Point, would probably be looking to do have a bit of an upset around 3rd place Chelsea in the under 17s game. We then have Rye versus Tayab down at Rye. We played at Rye last weekend, and it was the first time I've been down there since they've resurfaced the courts. Fantastic facilities down there. So 2 full-size netball courts and a 3rd court with the basketball rings, but obviously plenty of space to do warm-up. Really great courts. They've gone the old school kind of asphalt style court, but in that dewy, wet kind of weather, cold weather that we had. It wasn't raining, but it was just really safe underfoot. It was really great. So Rye versus Tayab, this game is going to be the It's Okay Not to Be Okay round, and we'll put some information up on the page to give you some extra details about it. But it's a fantastic cause. It's really good to see these 2 clubs getting together. I believe that the Rye or Tayab, maybe that's the boys, or they've got the special kit with a bit more blue on. That type of stuff that's going on. So really, really great initiative that continues to kick on year. Fantastic.
And we see a lot of different clubs doing their different one
Ways
that they'll
of
stick to. So we had like Bombers did socket to M&D. Everyone's got a different cause that sits really close to their hearts.
I saw the Chelsea girls had crazy socks on the other week. I'm not sure what that was fundraising for, but it is, we've got a lot of causes that are really close to our hearts. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things that impact us, our friends and family, players, etc. And it's just really great that we can get behind these and raise some much needed funds to these fantastic causes.
100%.
Yep. And last but not least is my game, Summerville versus Hastings. So we have a home game this week. So we've got 2 in the trot, this one and then the following one, which is nice. And so we welcome Hastings. And again, Hastings, they actually beat our A-grade side. We had them, it was actually round 1, and we played the Thursday night before the Saturday. And they, you didn't know if it was an upset or not an upset back in round 1, but they did knock us off, and so I know our girls will want to try and turn that around. Hastings, sitting outside of the 5, they're not going to be able to make it in, whereas we are, similar to Mornington, trying to win every game coming into the last round to be able to get in. So it'll be interesting. I hope our A-grade girls can pull out a good win there. But other than that, Hastings, I think, again, very similar, maybe to Cribby and, to Devon as well, just really struggling to get some wins on the board. So, unfortunate for Hastings, hopefully for me, that we can celebrate back in the club rooms with some big wins.
Nice one.
Alrighty.
And then as we mentioned, we'd got the Swordfish
Absolutely.
Player of the Match game or Swordfish Game of the Round this week. Flips back over to Division 1.
Yep.
And it's the D-grade game versus it's Rosebud versus Bomb Beach, so that's 2nd versus 5th. And Rosebud coming off a loss last week, which I don't think I actually mentioned in our notes. I did circle it, one of those another ones that I missed, but going down to Pines, which they would have probably been a little bit disappointed with, but Pines also up there in the top 4, but Rosebud only dropping 1 or 2 games, a couple of draws, so they'll
Rosebud
be trying to turn it around
back, and Bomb Beach trying to get probably 2 upsets in a row maybe.
Yes, and also we'll see what happens there, and we'll send our spies out.
Bomb Beach had they had a good win last week because they obviously had
the clean sweep.
So, it'll be an
interesting to see
game,
and we'll pull that in, or if Rosebud can turn it around.
Hopefully, it's a really tight game. Like we said, we'll send our spies down, see who is the best on court there. And Rosebud and Bomb Beach still quite a little bit of a hike to Mornington there, but I'm sure you would do that for the pizzas and wine at Swordfish.
100%. It's like they don't meet in the middle, but then
they do for a Swordfish pizza. They do. All right, so good luck to all the teams that are playing tomorrow. We hope that you all have great wins. Stay safe, don't get injured. Don't forget to upload your scores live throughout the day on the GameFace record app. If your club isn't updating the scores, then find someone to do it and get them to contact us for the links.
And thanks again to our sponsors who make this show possible, so Swordfish Mornington and the Frankston RSL. We'll see you all next week, coming with you for more netball news. If you have a topic you want to discuss, feel free to inbox at the GameFace page and comment below.
Okay, cheers.
Have a good weekend.
Good luck.
Get your GameFace on.